You have to be, first, you have to love it. And second, you have to be competitive. I met Francis on October 23rd, 2006. Him and I together, like we'd rather die than lose. When the parents know what they're doing, and once the parents got their stuff together so good and they're so disciplined, so as long as the parents can put those values and educate their children in such a way, they can get from point A to point B faster because of that.
So as always, this CoachLife podcast is brought to you by CoachLife.com, where you can find the junior coaches to the best players in the world, including the junior mentors of Iga Swiatek, Coco Gauff, Taylor Fritz, Tommy Paul, Frances Tiafoe, Novak Djokovic, Naomi Osaka, Jessie Pegula, Maria Sharapova. The list goes on. We have over 30 categories, 480 instructional videos from 26 of the greatest coaches of all time, with one new coach added every month. It really is the most comprehensive tennis instructional platform ever, and an absolute must-have for tennis parents, coaches, and players trying to improve their game. We hope you enjoy the podcast.
All right. Misha Kouznetsov, I am excited to finally speak with you. Todd Widom here, and you developed Frances Tiafoe. I watched him coming up through juniors. I had one of my students play him when they were about 15 years old, so I heard that name a long time ago. And you were the guy that developed him. So we're going to talk about Frances's upbringing, and it's an amazing story. A lot of us do know some about his upbringing, but you're going to give us some great details that we for sure don't know about. So anyways, explain to us Frances's upbringing of tennis. At what age you started working with him, how many hours a week, some of the specifics that you worked on to develop a world-class tennis player.
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And I met Francis on October 23rd, 2006. I even remember the day because it was my first day on the job. I moved from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I was coaching Division I tennis for a couple of years, and I worked with some really good juniors in that area. But when I got my job at Tennis Center College Park, all the players were taken. So the only way you can develop a player, you had to go and find one of the little kids. So the program is called Junior Champions, and they hit a few balls before. They did like a maybe peewee class, but they were pretty fresh. And he was in that group, so it was about 20 of them. And he had a twin brother, Franklin. He was there too, and he didn't stand out at all. So there were so many of them in that group, and I liked him because I saw that his father was working there. And once I saw that, I was like, he's here all the time. So I get to work with him as much as I can, because I knew that we needed to probably put in about 4 to 6 hours a day if I were to make a champion. And I was immediately very interested, and he didn't have a coach. I talked to his father, and father said, take him and do whatever you want with him. And we basically went to work right away. Um, and then we probably just hit a lot of tons of balls in the beginning, and we started to work technique, feel. I'm really big on angles, and what I started to do, I had a vision. So my vision, I had like a big picture vision of what I really wanted to do, because I had a dream, because I never played on a pro tour like yourself. I played in college, and I'm short. I'm only 5'7", and I was a grinder, and I never had an opportunity to. I couldn't crack an egg. I made a lot of balls. I was very consistent. I got a full scholarship. I had a scholarship in Florida. Then I came on. I played in Maryland, but I never had a big game. And my vision was I need an athlete. So I needed somebody that's athletic. And what I liked about him was that the father was tall, and the mother was somewhat tall, and I was like, look, and looked very strong, and he was bigger than the other kids. So I figured, this is my guy, and I'm gonna go to work, and I'm gonna work with him, and I'm gonna see how far I can take him. And then I went straight to his father. I said, I want to be his coach. And the father said, go ahead, like I said earlier. And then we basically went to work, and we started to hit a lot of balls. um So basically, because of the height was probably number one reason why I did it. And then I knew I was a grinder, so I knew I needed to teach consistency. So consistency was number one for me. And I divided everything up in big blocks. So my first block was about 4-year block, from 8 to 12. We just did tons of angles and tons of grinding, and I wouldn't let him go down the line or hit the ball flat at all. And I wanted lots of racket speed, and I wanted his tennis ball to be super heavy. And basically, each ball had to cross a sideline before it crossed the baseline. And then I just ran him side to side, short court, every practice. And then we did so many hours in a day, about 4 to 5 hours. um, he followed me from clinic to clinic, and because I was the coach there, I was the senior coach. And then some parents didn't like it because sometimes he was weaker, and some other kids didn't want to hit with him because he was not good enough. And then I jumped in and I just hit with him, and we did all these angles for basically for a very long period of time. um, After that, the step number two was to develop weapons, because I knew he was going to be really tall and super strong. So I needed him to finish, to be able to finish points and have as much power as he could possibly have. And then I started to feed him balls that were just a little bit higher than the net level, and then higher and higher. And I started really close by the net, and he just started killing them. And he was probably about 11 or 12. We started doing that. And then each time he hit the ball needed to hit the court one time, one bounce, hit the fence. So then I needed that 10 in a row, and I'm really big on numbers. I don't move forward until something is done. So he would hit 10 in a row, one bounce, hit the fence, flat, on the forehand side down the line, forehand inside out, and then a backhand down the line. I actually did backhand down the line weapon first because I'm Russian and we're big on backhands. So we did that, and it was like unreal. After the backhand, I did forehand and forehand inside out. But then the angles worked so good, and as soon as the ball was just a tiny bit higher than the net, he pulled the trigger. Boom, it was over. Boom, it was over. And then he started to win, and he started to win quickly. And then what I started doing, I started to drop the ball. I would toss the ball deeper, and I started to move him along, like further towards the baseline, towards the baseline, towards the baseline. Then we got as far as the baseline, and then he would hit those 10 balls in a row, one bounce, hit the fence, all the way at the baseline, flat. Then we started putting some more weight into it, and then we started putting more legs into it. Then when that was done, I started doing net on the run. So he touched the basket in the corner, then he would sprint, set up. I mean, either open stance. I really wanted him to step in, but sometimes he wasn't willing. And then we'll talk about that in a second. And then he just hit it flat, and then the point was over. Then I went for that one. I asked him to hit 5 in a row on the run. And then I did both sides like that. So that was an incredible combination. So the angles was like a setup, and then we wait, try to pull the trigger. If the guy gets it back, then we go again angles. If it's below the net, then we wait for anything that's higher above the net. Even if the ball is deep, even if it's on the baseline, even if it's on the run, he needed to hit a winner there too. And so that way he would be able to go through the challengers and all that, and be able to beat the pushers and be able to win points quickly and early. Then after those weapons we developed, we started doing so big with the serves. We did serves first thing. 7 a.m. because 8 a.m. was the clinic. Before clinic, 7 a.m. we were there, 1 hour, pretty much 5 days a week. Flat down the tee, same thing. One bounce hit the fence, and then we moved further, and then we did a flat down the tee, flat out wide, and then serve was our third weapon. So once we had all those weapons in place, then the biggest thing was to be able to be comfortable at the net and have tons of confidence. So that was, he was like maybe 12, 13 already there. And that was, we just finished the first year in 12s nationally. He maybe won 1 or 2 rounds in the nationals. That's it. First year. Second year, he went further, but he didn't win any supers or anything like that. We went to Orange Bowl, and actually he was about to turn 13, and I was like, we're gonna win for sure. We're gonna get sponsorships. And then first round, we ran into Michael Moe, and Michael Moe had Maryland address, but Michael Moe moved from Saudi Arabia. His dad played pro, and then I met Michael Moe, and Michael Moe was already shaving, and we were in 12s.
Right.
And Francis is a big boy, and I knew we were gonna win Orange Bowl. And I was like, dude, we're doing big things right here. And Michael Moe beat him 7-6 in the third. Then Michael Moe won the whole Orange Bowl 6-0, 6-0 every single round. We were like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to us. But Michael pushed. And Francis came to the net. He came to the net. Michael pushed, Michael passed. But I told Francis, don't worry about it. It's not about 12s. It's all 16s, 18s. Because I had another boy, he also grinded a lot. I said, no. Comfortable at the net, come to the net and just stay there. Just come in. And during practices, I kept him at the net, and he just did tons of volleys. And we got so comfortable and so confident in the net that he was like, he felt amazing there. Mm-hmm. And then once he felt amazing there, so that was like a third thing. And the fourth was, the last thing was just the transition game. So once angles worked, weapons were in place, and then if the dude is like, I'm going to push, and then you hit almost a win, and then you push again, then the transition game was like swinging volley or regular, come in, boom. Right. Point needed to be over in 4 shots or less. And then that's it. And as long as it was a hard court, we were good. And the serve started flying. Then I put a radar gun in there. And then we started climbing our mileage. And our mileage was like, we went from like 90 to 100. Then we stuck at 100 for a while. Then we're like 105, 110. Then we started adding legs, 115. Then we started adding legs and weight, and then zip on the ball every time. Then maybe 120. And then we stuck there for a long time. But he was like a big boy. And next thing you know, at 15, he wins Orange Bowl, 18 and under, youngest in the history. So basically, that's kind of a background story on that.
Yeah, amazing. You know, there's a couple of things that stick out in my mind as I'm listening to this, right? But, you know, first and foremost, I think what the audience needs to understand is that you were given green light from Frances's father and mother to develop a player to the best of your knowledge, right? And you had years to do it, where a lot of coaches or parents, they don't give that green light, right? You know,
yeah, we had a exactly, but we had a unique situation.
Absolutely.
We became parents, me and my ex-wife, because the mother, this is so interesting. First time the mother saw him play tennis was at the US Open juniors, when I think he was 17, about to turn 18. She would come, he would be playing ITF level 2. She would walk in and be like, Francis, dinner is ready, get off the court. He's playing level 2 ITF, like quarters.
Right.
I was like, no, will let us finish. She said, this is not important for me, Misha, come on. Because I would pick him up, I would drive him, I would take him to all the tournaments. So mother was not involved at all, like zero. Well, and then the father was just so chill, like African dudes, like so laid back. He was basically like, he's doing a great job, he's winning, you know, like. And then in the beginning, because they couldn't pay entry fees, so I paid entry fees. I got clothes, shoes, we got in my car. So then he stayed in my house. Right. So basically it was like family. Right. And then it was family, and that's kind of like, it was just 100% up to me. Parents were not on the way at all. Right. And then me and Francis, we never had a fight. Right. You know, I had to push him because at times he was lazy, but in terms of how relationship was, it was perfect.
Right. You know, that's that's tremendous, right? And especially when you have the blessing from the parents, right? To
Yeah,
really, have 100% green light to develop the
100%.
player to the best of your knowledge, right? I've had
Yes.
cases like that as well, and these are such enjoyable cases where
Yes.
parents, give you the green light and they give you 100% trust and to do what you feel is necessary, right?
Hmm.
Maybe going through great times, maybe times that aren't so great. I mean, that's, everybody goes through that, right? The winning, the
Yeah,
losing,
and
the
the
good
dad would be
times,
like, even he was losing, he'd be like, "Oh, that's okay. Don't worry, he'll win next time.
right?
It's okay. You guys fine." I was worried a little bit here and there, and then sometimes he'd cry. And then we would go Dave and Buster's, play video games and stuff, and then
Very
it
good.
was cool. And then like life got better because he was really poor, and I came here from Russia really poor too. So like our life, both of our lives got better and better as we got to travel more and go to national
Right,
tournaments and stuff. So we both got to see better things in life as we both progressed.
right.
So yeah, but the key is the parents is definitely the key, and then when they give you freedom to do whatever it takes,
Yeah,
and then combined with patience and discipline, I mean, and of course perseverance.
yeah,
But we just persevered because we play, and then the key is like we played almost every weekend, so it wasn't even a big deal, and both of us were loving it. Monday through
right,
Friday we were training, and we both wanted to go to tournament Saturday, Sunday. So even if he lost, or sometimes he even played the back draw and lost in the back draw, then we were like, oh, it's okay. Next weekend there's another one, and another one, and another one. So
right.
we got so comfortable and so confident there, we just felt so good, so we just kept on going.
Yeah. My question is, and you'll hear this from a lot of parents and coaches and trainers, right? Is that,
Hmm.
Francis, it sounds like at a very young age, he was putting in a lot of hours, right? Where you hear, people talking about, oh, don't specialize too early, play multiple sports, don't play, too much tennis. Oh, Misha, how could you have Francis playing 4 or 5 hours a day at that young age and these
Yeah,
things? But developing a champion is different, right?
yeah. We were all in from beginning. Like we
Exactly.
knew we knew we were gonna make it when he was like 9.
Right.
Like
Right.
we knew we were gonna make it.
Yeah.
We like fifth grade. Martin Blackman was in charge back then, and the academy was small. Quality was great. We had two players per coach in the morning. In the afternoon, like everybody got to play singles. Now academy is huge there. Um,
Right.
Basically, we were just having so much fun, and it wasn't for us. We didn't want to play other sports. We didn't want to do anything else.
Right.
When you're all in and you're loving it truly, and that's your passion, it doesn't feel like working. I never felt like I was working there.
Right. Yeah. You're just enjoying the process, trying to get
Just
better.
yeah, me and
There's
him
not a
together.
Yeah. There's not a lot of pressure. The parents are
Yeah,
green light. It's a beautiful
exactly. It's not
situation.
not a big deal at all. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So then possibly some of the players, maybe they don't love it as much, and maybe they're not as competitive. Maybe
Right.
that's not what they need to do.
Right. Right. Absolutely. You know, going to the upbringing and the foundation for Frances Tiafoe, right? And you coach every day. I coach every single day. What I think is really important, I love that you spoke about, is you were developing a feel for the ball, where I'm sure you see this. I see it all the time. Kids are banging the ball all around the place, right? They don't
Hmm.
have a real understanding on how to feel the ball and measure the ball and be able to place the ball. And, one of the guys that I love to spend a couple of days with, who isn't alive anymore, who is on Coach Life, was Robert Lansdorp,
Hmm.
right? And I was blessed to spend a couple of days with him just before I was turning pro, coming out of college in Los
Right.
Angeles. And he's well known, and it's the way that I was brought up. And he would say CPP, consistency, placement, and then power, right? Where
Yes.
you see a lot of kids and they're trying to go too big at a young age. Their techniques, their foundation is not solid yet to be able
Yes.
to go that big. And then they're going to
Yes.
have big problems later on.
Yes. And that's why I
So,
said 4 years we did angles.
right, 4
You
years.
don't even
Yeah,
know. 4 hours a day.
right,
We did just pull, 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 pull. Then we did a touch game. Because the
Beautiful.
touch game, we did that. It's like the butthead game. Only
Yeah.
we started a
Yeah.
service line,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we did slice, angle, field, come in, lob. Both of us run in,
Right.
drop, drop. Then we did a slice game, 2 boxes.
Right.
Then we did a volley, closing volley game, and we
Right.
did just feel, touch, angles, everything. Because I've seen so many coaches in the past when I was growing up, they couldn't teach consistency.
Right.
The players were spraying. Even
Yeah.
a little guy like me, I'm just making balls. I'm winning like a lot, you see?
Right.
So then they couldn't teach that. So for me, it was like, I need to be able to teach consistency. The dude's got to be like making everything
Right. I
an
was.
amazing feel like Djokovic. Like there's nothing like it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was trained the same way by Argentine coaches. At a very
Exactly.
young age, we were having to make 20 balls in a row, finish buckets that were a couple hundred balls, side to side, the foundation of all the
Oh yeah,
shots.
like down the
Yeah,
middle, I do the drill first to 5 mistakes. Me and
right,
Francis, like we could hit one ball, we wouldn't miss for an hour.
right.
Like down the middle,
Right,
like mini tennis, no chance.
right,
Like we just
right.
go back and it stays in play.
Yeah, but also, obviously you're developing the consistency of shot, but you're also developing the mentality.
Exactly, because
And
I hear
that's
some
what's
coaches say
missing
you
for many.
can't teach the mindset and all that and the mentality, but there are certain little games and little drills that I do
Right,
that the mindset and mentality is possible to teach by putting those games in place.
right.
Like a
Well,
little cross court game, short court, first to 11. We're not missing for an hour until somebody gets 11. I had to cut that game to 5 or 3.
right, right,
And we're hitting heavy and we're moving deep. You
right.
see?
Yeah, I mean, a lot, many of the kids, that I see, I'm sure that you see, they don't have the mental stamina to be able to stay in drills for long periods of time. They can do a couple of balls, maybe 4 balls, 5 balls. But when we start talking about 20, 50, 100 balls, that's like
Yeah.
a whole different language to them. It doesn't seem to be taught these
Yeah,
days.
it's crazy.
Right? And if you want to be a great player, the first and foremost, we know at every single level
Yeah,
the game comes down. It's won and lost by errors,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So the
You got to be able to stay
foundations,
all day.
yeah, the
All day.
foundations have to be very solid on every shot, right? So
Hmm.
that, and then are they holding up under pressure, right? In tournaments, right, where you'll feel the most amount of pressure. So you have to be
Definitely.
trained well. So let me ask you another question about Francis. Technique. To me, he has some interesting techniques. The forehand, the serve, the backhand, I'd say is, more technically normal or sound, whatever you want to call it. So
Hmm.
I saw videos of when he was younger, right, where the technique, it looked a lot more sound from a young age than it does today. And I'm going to tell you that, I used to do a lot of training with Andy Roddick when we were on tour.
Hmm.
And you can even see videos of Djokovic when he was 18, when he went on tour, and Rafa Nadal, and even Federer, and all of these players, really, right? And techniques do change over time without the coach changing them. I don't know if a lot of people know this. They may change a little bit, but, going through the levels of tennis, maybe going through the different age divisions, maybe going, in your early start of your pro career and then progressing through your professional career. I can tell you that when I came out of college to turn pro, I shortened up my forehand swing a little bit, just knowing
Yeah.
that the ball was coming a little faster. No coach needed to tell me that. It was just something I did on my own and it felt good and I just went with it, right? And so, tell me, about his technical foundation, but then, things can, change over time. I'm not sure if a lot of people know this, but if you're really paying attention to these amazing players, things can change, right? So tell me what you think about that and what you've seen and what you know about Francis.
Yes, I'll explain exactly how it is. So basically, I had him when I'm spending tons of time with him, backhand and forehand. I have a video of him hitting forehand clean, even at 14, 15, like Agassi, normal.
Right.
You see? Then what happens is about 15, 16, he started to travel more. Then the
Uh,
forehand started to change. The
uh-huh.
elbow would the elbow would get above the wrist.
Yeah.
Exactly. Then later on, even the grip start to slide towards the western.
Right.
Then the swing, okay. Then he gets wild. So if somebody is putting pressure on him, 4 or 5 balls, even down the middle, and with that wild take back, you get more power and more speed, right? But because of the take back and because of the wrist action,
He might hit
honestly, you're all over the
he might
place.
hit a little late.
Exactly. A little late, or if he goes down the line, even
Right.
if it's tiny bit late, forget it. So
Right.
then he's spraying. So then I had him so clean there, like exactly like how Agassi was, and I had it as a weapon. And I have some videos of me getting it down till about 15 or 16, and he wins orange ball like this, and it's no issue. Then when he is not traveling, I'm able to bring him back. I put him with the wall at the wall by my house. I clean it up. It's back in place. Then sometimes he loses it. Then I give him like a foam ball with the girl, and he finds it back mini tennis. If he loses it, I build it back up, right? Then he starts to travel more or comes back, right? Then it goes wild again. And then it goes till about 17 years old like this. Then he's winning matches on futures and and challengers. And a lot of times he would be like, "Yo, Mish, but I'm winning, I'm good."
Yeah.
So now I'm dealing with the dude being immature and not listening.
Right.
So then I have the keys. I drive the car. We're in Florida, staying in my parents' house. I fix it back. I put everything together. When winning matches again, I have it the way I want it. As soon as he's gone for 3 weeks, if I'm not there, it goes. You can go wild, or he's hitting and he's playing points. He's having fun. He's laughing, right? But his focus is in and out, so he's not really on top of it. And then as soon as 17, almost 18, we turned pro. I finally ran out of money. Then he didn't have a coach for 5 years. So we're talking 18 to 23. He's at USTA. Jose Higueras was overseeing a group of like 10 guys. So
Right.
he's out there living in an apartment, doing his thing, traveling on his own. He didn't really have anybody like a father figure for a very long time. So he's going back and forth. So nobody's really working that technique. So that's why things became like that. In terms of the serve, the only thing is the left arm, it kind of drops a little bit, but
Yeah.
the elbow actually stays up so it doesn't hurt him so much. And then the shoulder turn that kind of looks like a small one, kind of like Wawrinka. I kind of did that. I didn't mind that because I was getting a lot of mileage on that and not too much hip. There is rotation there of the hips, okay, but it's not such a big shoulder turn. And I didn't mind because it kept us injury free, and I was still getting a lot of miles on the serve. And he really liked it because he was able to line up his right arm with the tee down the tee and just rip it really good. And the timing was really short and simple, so we kind of left the serve that way.
Right.
The only thing is definitely the forehand. I mean, if we could have kept that the same, if we could have kept going another 4 or 5 years, I definitely believe he would have won the slam.
Right. So, it's very interesting what you're speaking about because, my tennis upbringing and how I bring up my students, is that when they're not technically really sound, I don't put them in a lot of tournaments and I don't have them traveling a lot.
Correct.
So this is I think a lot of parents can learn from this as well as coaches, is that when a player is developing and they're playing too many tournaments and traveling too much, things can break down.
Definitely. And you need to be able to get it back together.
Yeah. And, my upbringing was that I would train with my Argentine coaches that were producing, many, many champions on all levels. We would train months and months for maybe 1 or 2 tournaments. Then that tournament was an assessment on, what's holding up, what isn't going well. And then you'd go back to training months. So, we didn't play a lot of tennis tournaments, right? And we stayed very local in Florida. And everybody knows there's a lot of competition in Florida. And you had to prove that you were good enough and you were dominating Florida to get out of Florida to maybe go play like, the big nationals or maybe go into pro tennis. at 16 or 17 years old and these things, but the foundation was worked on every single day and it was set. But, you see this with a lot of players. You see parents trying to manage the careers. Even Robert Lansdorp, a guy that I looked up to, he told me he was the first traveling coach on the tour with Tracy Austin. I believe he told me when she was 14, because she would go on the road and her techniques would change, and he got fed up with that, so he went on the road to keep it together.
You gotta be
Right.
on the road, or they need to come back at
Yeah.
least every 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But basically, the person, it has to be there. There's no way that should have happened, where a situation where a dude is top 200 ATP, Orange Bowl champion, getting wildcards at USTA, falling through the cracks with no coach,
Right.
because Jose wasn't there every practice.
Right.
They
Right.
were just, it's a typical situation. They're just there as a group
Right. And actually,
for 5 years.
I was bringing some of my students at that time to go play matches because I knew a lot of the coaches.
Yeah,
Right.
match play is good. In
Yeah.
addition,
Yeah.
you have to have a strong coach mentor. That's right.
And
And then you add the match play in the afternoon, how we had it.
right. But you need one coach.
One coach.
Not a whole bunch of coaches. One coach who knows that player, who knows what that player is
Yes.
all about, right? And not just,
Exactly.
throwing the children around and the students around.
100%. One coach, all in. It's like us. We pretty much did 10 years.
Right.
We did 9 years and 6 months without stopping.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
As we turned pro, if we would have had the money, we
right.
would have been able to keep on going. But we signed with Rock Nation, we turned pro, the money ran out.
Right.
When the money runs out, then you can't do anything. You can't travel. You can't pay the coach.
Right. What a lot of people and a lot of parents, I think, get this wrong. Too many cooks in the kitchen is not a good
definitely.
thing.
And then,
right?
and then what happens is somebody legit, they're not going to be all in.
They don't know that player. They don't know how they tick, how to manage them, how to challenge them, how to motivate them. This is the art. I talk about the art of coaching, right? Understanding that player. No one would know Francis like you do, spending, 9, almost 10 years with him, right? You know him best on how to develop him. You know all his techniques, his athleticism, how he structures points, his mentality, all these things. No one would know this guy like you. There's no way.
Definitely.
Right. So, the upbringing of bringing up a player and making sure that their foundation stays really solid. I talk about this quite often, is that if kids want to traveling isn't just about playing a match and then going to the movies. Traveling is, if you're really serious about tennis and it's high performance, and you want to go to a great college or you want to become a professional tennis player, you need a great coach on the road, and the training never stops. It never does. So in this case with you and Francis, if you weren't on the road, his techniques were changing and you weren't there to keep it clean all the time, which probably would have helped him a lot. Now, we all know that he became a great player, but there were definitely deficiencies that were coming into play because he wasn't continually working on these things all the time as a developing player.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, 18 to 23, I don't think he worked on anything really. He just played, and the record was he lost a lot more than he won.
The thing is, not everyone is Frances Tiafoe. I mean, you're talking about a freak athlete that can do this. When you talk about Daniil Medvedev and you talk about these guys where they might have some unorthodox things, Tommy Paul is another one. Some of these shots that they have are unorthodox, but what people don't understand is that these players are freak athletes. They are tremendous. They've worked incredibly hard, on their tennis, their fitness, the mentality, the mental toughness, all these things. But at the end of the day, I'm sure that they could play other sports because they're God-gifted athletes, right? And so when you have this, and I can tell you, when I was training on tour with some of these players, I would look across the net and I'm thinking to myself, you know, one of the most intimidating things for me was that you could see how great athletically their movement, their athleticism, their defense, how they can get around the court. And I would think to myself, it doesn't matter how much fitness I do. I had some of the most incredible trainers. Some of these
Hmm.
guys that I played against, I looked across
Exactly.
the net. I was like, I will never move like these players. They are God gifted, and obviously they've put in unbelievable amount of work. But when you talk
Exactly.
about Djokovic and Federer and Nadal and Sinner and
Hmm.
Francis and Tommy Paul, I mean, you can go on and on and on. I mean, all of them, they were God gifted, born incredible athletes, right?
Yeah.
Right? There are some players that aren't so God gifted, and they have to work incredible amounts of hours to get as quick as they can, and as good as
Oh,
they can,
definitely.
right? But these players, I watched a video of Sampras when he was training with Robert Lansdorp as maybe, I don't know, maybe he was 10 or 12 years old, and I'm looking at that going, this kid, I mean, he is so fast. I mean, look at him moving around the court. This is incredible, right? So,
Yeah,
in
that's exactly. Francis could sprint. Like he had a issue with the endurance,
okay,
and he had an issue with the mindset because he was a lot of times he was lazy, so he wouldn't push himself.
right,
But the thing is, right again from the beginning, the body was there, the
right,
strength, the height. I saw that. A lot of people didn't see it. They basically were like, "Well, he's lazy. He's not gonna make it." But I saw it because he couldn't do a push up for a long time, but I knew eventually he would. And he couldn't do jump rope because of timing, but that was just a timing issue. And
yeah,
endurance was bad, but the sprint was there.
right,
And then the strength, and then he got stronger and stronger, older and older. Then once he started lifting weights and sprinting, the amount of power we were able to generate and amount of speed that
right.
he could
His
go, and,
acceleration, yeah,
and then the mindset, like the signal would go from the brain to the feet, and then he was there. And
right,
especially he's so competitive and so hungry and passionate that he's there so fast, and
right,
he can hit the ball harder than most people.
right. But here's the thing, and this is exactly what I'm thinking about as you're saying this. First and foremost, his love for the game and him studying the game. I've read up on Francis over the years
Mhm.
and seen him come through, right? Was first and foremost, the guy loved the game. He wanted to study the game. And that's great players are obsessed with the game,
Oh
right?
yeah, the amount of passion and hunger. We would just talk tennis on the way to tournaments,
Right,
on the way back. We would study why this dude didn't make it.
right. I
People
would,
that came through the tennis center, we actually would go to City Open in DC, and we wanted to be like Del Potro. So I picked Del Potro. I said, Francis, your favorite player is gonna be Del Potro. People ask him now, who's your favorite player? Del Potro. Then we would watch him practice. I'd be like, watch how he finishes the forehand.
right,
Do you see how many winners he's hitting? Look at the serve. I need you
right,
like to be like him. And we just watch them, watch them, watch them. We always. But again, it's like you want to learn.
right. I mean, it comes
You're
from,
so passionate.
yeah,
It's just it comes natural.
yeah.
And then he would be watching match and figuring stuff out. Then we're at other tournaments, the ITFs and the futures, and then we're just learning from everybody else as well.
Now, my next question, he had that hunger, that passion, right, to be great, and he loved the game. Can you teach that, or one just has that? They just have such a joy and a passion to play the game, or can you kind of force it and teach it?
the, but basically my short answer, I don't think you can force it and teach it. The reason why is um you have to be, first you have to love it, and second you have to be competitive. If you love it and you're competitive, the thing with us was he was so poor and hungry, like we needed it so bad.
Right,
Him and I together, like we'd rather die than lose.
right,
And we kept it like that from 12s to 14s to he won La Petitas, then won the Orange Bowl youngest, and then he just, that was just given to him. However, at the same time, I do believe you can still be rich and make it. For example, a couple of billionaire girls out there,
This
Americans.
was going to be my next subject.
Right.
Yep.
So, and Sampras dad had money. Federer dad was a banker. People with money also make it, but their kids are super competitive and they really love it. So it doesn't really matter. In our case, it worked out a little bit better because we didn't have anything, especially him and his family. So he got to see like life keep on improving, improving, improving. Then it was just so good.
Right.
But to a lot of them, it's already great. Everybody's already rich. But
Right.
again, if you're really competitive and you're really loving it, you might not get as high, like of life, high on life as us did, but I believe you can still make it.
Right. No, that was going to be my next subject is Misha. Tennis is an expensive sport.
Hmm.
Not every child is going to have someone in their corner like you and training Francis, like you did and be able to afford, the training and everything. I have trained some students where money is not a problem, right? The
Hmm.
parents can, afford, whatever needs to be done, right? And so, these wealthy individuals, right? You see them make it on the tour. Pagula, Navarro on the ladies'
Exactly.
side. You have Taylor Fritz. I mean, you have a bunch on the men's side, right?
Hmm.
And so, to me, many times, my opinion, right, is that these players that don't have any financial issues, a lot of it comes down to their upbringing from their parents and the standards of the family, right? Because these players, we all know tennis is extremely difficult. It's
Yes.
very tough. It takes a long time to become great, right? There's a lot of tough days, great days, times where you're thinking you may not want to do this anymore, right? I mean, all kinds of things going through your mind, right? But these cases where finances are not an issue, you're seeing a lot of great players. Fonseca, I just read an article, on
Hmm.
him. Dad, does very well in Brazil, and finances are not a problem, right? So, what do you think about this? You see a lot of players that don't have anything growing up, like Francis, that were so hungry that it was their
Yeah.
way to really become great and earn a living. And I had
Exactly.
those thoughts as well. Not quite at Francis's level, but man, I didn't have much, right? Every single
Right.
day counted, every ball. Tennis was how I was going to earn my living. I was going to work and grind, and I needed to do something, right? And this was my chance. So, but then you have the other side where, there's plenty of families where, you know what, the kids are going to be just fine if they don't hit a tennis ball. It's not going to be a problem. So, why do players make it with all different types of backgrounds? What's the deal there?
Well, I think the wealthy ones, it's a good job by their parents because that's education.
Right.
Because they made it to that far for a reason. So that's them teaching them. Like probably talking to them in the car on the way to tournaments, on the way back from tournaments, and putting good values into them. And it's them becoming good people, and is basically they're really smart. And then when the parents know what they're doing, and once the parents got their stuff together so good and they're so disciplined, and then they have the money and opportunities, they what they do is just like they everybody starts at a different point. The ones that have money, they're 3 or 4 steps ahead because they can put hitting partners in play, fitness coach, mental coach there. And on top of it, they have the brain. So they're 4 steps ahead of you and they're further. So when the guy says sprint, and then they can just sprint to the finish line faster because they have all those things already in place. You see, so as long as the parents can put those values and educate their children in such a way, they can get from point A to point B faster because of that.
Right. Misha, you hear, a lot of people that make it, and maybe players that don't, make it on the tour. But at the end of the day, doesn't it come down to how much you want this?
It comes down to, yeah, definitely. I mean, exactly. Why do it? You see,
Right.
that's why, like, I'm doing so many lessons now, and I would say even probably about 50% of the people that come to me, the parents want it more than the kids.
Yeah.
You see, that's 50%. Then you have another really good 50%
Right.
that the kids really, really want it. And then after the kids really want it, and then the parents bring them and they pay for everything, then I have to figure out the next, hopefully 25% also that are competitive.
Right.
You see, and then so many of them bring them and pay this expensive money for private lessons just to get them out of the house, out of YouTube, out of Instagram, out
Yeah.
of PlayStation.
Nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And exactly. And then basically, yeah. And then so you really gotta, if you're in that 10-20%, then you're in a good place. And then if you're another 50%, you can't wait for the kids to want it themselves, because then you just wait, and you wait for them to mature. But then you're also going to wait till they're 12, 13, 14, maybe 15, and that's too late.
Mm.
So the other thing to the parents is, you got to keep pushing also.
Yeah.
You got to keep pushing from a young age, because we had a lot of challenges as well, because Francis was lazy, extremely laid back, and he needed to be pushed. It's a good thing he never got injured, but I had to push, or he would try to hit a winner too early.
Mm.
He wouldn't want to grind, so I take him to the track. I had to make him run laps, and it was difficult. And then from probably 8 to 13, 8 to 14, a lot of stuff also came from me, because I was like a parent. So the parents really have to keep pushing, keep motivating, and then keep the kid positive and keep the kid in the game. And the parent cannot quit before the child.
Mm-hmm.
And parents, first of all, they have to work on themselves, not even on the kids, on us. Parents work on themselves and make sure their situation is perfect, so everything, we can continue working and we can persevere, and that way we can win in the long run, because the
Right.
child will be there and you're going to have ups and downs, and that's very important.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a question. If, and my mother used to say, Todd, money doesn't buy wins, right? So you see a lot of people and they're buying everything for the child. The lessons, the groups, the mental training, the personal trainers, nutritionists, everything, right? Is it that necessary that we have all of these specialists? I mean, it's really nice that a lot of families can afford anything for their child, right? And I find it interesting that we have all of these specialists. And if a child struggles in a match mentally, we got to get a sports psychologist. Oh, if a child, cramps in a match, we need a nutritionist now. All of these specialists, and people are buying and buying things. But when you look at this, right, and you look at all these amazing players from Serbia and Croatia and Argentina and, all over Europe and all these things, a lot of these players didn't grow up with this.
Yeah, because money can buy heart.
Ah, very good. Right? You either want it, it doesn't matter the what you come from. You either want it so bad,
Exactly.
right, that
All
you're
those
willing to
things
do
that's
anything.
extra, if
Yeah.
it makes sense down the road, if your kid's not doing it, why are you spending your money?
Right. But at the
Why?
end of the day,
Yeah,
the child wants it so bad they're willing to do
exactly.
anything to make it happen.
Exactly. And then when you have a child like this, then the parents need to do their best to make it happen.
Right. Now let me ask you a question with
Yeah.
Francis, right? Because tremendous athlete and everything. What are the things that stood out the most, that were God gifted, that made you think that this guy could be a world class tennis player?
Well, the body, I mean,
Okay.
how he's built, it's different. That's why I did that from the beginning. I worked with other many players before. You see, I was like this. This guy, if you get the training, you play NBA, NFL, any sport, you'll be a superstar, anything. So I knew how to teach tennis, and then we had the tennis center with 30 courts. We had a facility. We had everything. School is upstairs. Fifth grade. He's homeschooled. Um, so basically, if more African American people could have this opportunity, it's probably, I don't know how many can do it, 1%, maybe a little more. Then the travel hits and all that, maybe even less than 1%, at about $50,000 a year to travel, and then plus coaching, and you do 10 years. That's amount of money we spend, for about 500,000. How many people have that? Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So if more, there would be definitely a lot more African American players doing this instead of NFL and NBA. But this guy was going to make it in one sport or another. Is definitely.
Right. You knew it, right? He was
I knew it. I knew it from day one. That's why we were not. Mom was big on school, but we did some school for him so that way we could travel, but we knew we were going pro from pretty much like pretty close to like 11, 12. Once he won La Petite Tasse in France at 13, 14, we knew we were all in. We just need to stay injury free, and that's another mentality too. Yeah, college wasn't even an option for us.
right, right. You guys were all in
We're all in
that
from day
he is
one.
going to
Yeah,
be a professional,
that's
and
it.
you're going to do whatever it takes every single day to try
Yeah,
to
that's it.
help him to make it happen.
Hmm.
You know, it's very interesting that you're very frank and very blunt about it, which I love because I think you're a straightforward guy from what I'm
Yeah, extremely.
hearing, and I am as well. So people either love us or maybe they don't love us, and
That
they
that and
right.
that's okay. That's
That's
why you have Todd Widom tennis and I have Misha tennis.
right. That's kind of the life of a coach. You may either love us
It's
or
it's
kind
all
of
good.
hate us.
We don't work for anybody.
Right, exactly. So here's the thing. My next question. A lot of kids grow up and maybe they don't have the work ethic and they don't have the mentality, or maybe they're lazy and these types of things,
Hmm.
right? How do you bring up these types of players, keep it interesting, keep it fun, and have the belief that one day they're going to mature and have a tremendous work ethic, and it's going to come together and they're going to be great? Because you see a lot of coaches, you see a lot of parents, and
Hmm.
they are thinking of giving up or they have given up because the kids haven't matured or they don't quite have the work ethic. They
Right.
do enjoy the game, but they're lazy, right? So,
Yes.
how do you keep this going knowing that one day they're going to put it together and wake up and mature and it's going to come together and they're going to be great?
Oh, I have a good question for me because I dealt with lazy for 5, 6 years
That
from
would
him.
drive me crazy.
Woo! Oh yeah, right. Because you like hard working, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, if you would have seen us, you would have been like, these guys, no chance. Every No chance. You see lazy, you'd be like, no,
Right,
because warm up was bad. The feet was bad. The
right,
owner of the club used to come to me, bring me in the office, and be like, Misha, do you want your job? There is no split step. He said,
right.
Misha, there's no split
He
step.
just stands there.
You playing national open, he's number one seed. He's returning serve, and then he just walks over, just
Yeah,
stands there, hits the ball back, maybe runs, maybe doesn't.
right.
So I dealt with that for a very long
But there's
time.
but there's but there's faith because he's such a talent.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was like, look at Federer, for example, hitting the ball down the middle. He doesn't split step either. The guy,
Right.
look, the thing with the split step, if you know where the ball's coming, forehand or ball
Yeah.
back, and you need to
That's
split.
you're not thinking that. You're just move well to the ball and hit it where you want to.
No, you just see ball's already coming. You're
Yeah.
not changing direction.
Right.
When you change in direction, that's a different story.
Right.
You see, but he's just standing there. He knows he's gonna hit it here, or he might hit a winner right there. Point
And
is
and
over.
and listen, there's such freaks and such great talents that they can get
Ex-
it done.
They can get
It's
exactly. They
against
can
it's
get it
against the
done.
rule. It's against the rule book.
Exactly. That's different. The different game. Exactly. But
Yeah.
then if you haven't, you have to bring him up as young. How the question was that you asked. You have to push different buttons.
Mm-hmm.
You have to play different games. You do drills. You see the kid is turning off. Then you gotta play touch game. You gotta play volley game. Maybe give him a break. Get some food. Relax. Then you come back. Then you possibly do live ball. Then maybe serve, and then done. The next day you got go hard again. Say it's bad, maybe serve first, get serving done. He's not tired, everything's looking good. Then you go hard again 30 minutes. Then you go easy. Then maybe fitness early, then fitness in the end, and you're always mixing it up, and you're always playing with it. And then you have to motivate, and then you have to talk. You work hard here, we win here, we have to get this done. Then we're gonna go this trip, we're going to Miami, we're gonna rent a jet ski, we're gonna get a little better hotel. But you got it, this 2 weeks the feet need to be moving, because you got to at least get to the ball to hit a winner.
Right.
We dealt with feet not moving, for a longest period of time. Guy was one in the world. He won Orange Bowl, best in the world, still not moving his feet. Then
Right.
we're doing fitness. I take him to the field. He was walking. He's the last one in the group. And then
Right.
the academy tried to make money, bring all these kids from New York. Say, here's Francis. What's he doing? Oh, he's walking. He's sitting. Then he say
But
he's tanking. Why is he tanking? I
yeah.
said, look, watch him in the tournament. Misha, he can't tank. He can't tank. We got to bring revenue. You guys tanking. I was like, look, and there's nothing I can do. They said, look, you want a job, make him work hard. Can you imagine? That was a lot of pressure for a
so
coach.
so as you're talking about this, right? And an
Yeah,
academy, wanting to make money, and they have a tremendous player
yeah,
coming up, you're
yeah.
doing an unbelievable job. But, you know, my next question, how much patience did you have, or did you get really frustrated with him when he was, not training at a certain standard, or, giving it away, or tanking, or, whatever? How much patience did you have? Because I don't know if I'd have much patience.
Yeah, for you probably wouldn't work. For
it would
me,
be it would be hard for me.
no, you probably, yeah. But I had a lot of patience, because this is my project, and you have to remember,
Right.
he's like my son.
I was gonna say he's like your son.
Yeah, you have people come in, you be like, we're not working hard, this is not working, call the parents, we gotta change it, this, right? It was like my son. It didn't matter, when
Right.
he won the first tournament. Like
You're
you
gonna
saying, one,
you're
oh,
gonna support him during the
no
best,
matter, no, because he
right,
won
or
tournament.
worst.
He's crying, I'm crying.
Right.
He's laughing, I'm laughing. It's like there's so
Yeah.
much love in that
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
That's like, imagine like it's like your son,
Right.
and then
I've
it's
had a
your son,
couple of I've had a couple of students, not that they didn't get to Francis's level, but I have
right?
had students like that where this
Yeah,
is what's going on, that we're so close
yeah,
that, that I'm going to back them, and I'm going to teach them, and do everything, that, listen, to really care for them, even if they're
yeah,
really screwing up. Right. And you believe that it's going to work out, and we're going to keep plugging along.
yeah. Patience, and it wasn't always bad. Like, you,
Right.
even if you get 30 minutes or an
Well,
hour out of
and
him,
they're young, right? They're gonna. I
they're
mean,
young,
I went. I
exactly.
did. I did this too. When I was younger, you're a young kid, and
But
it's
you
frustrating. And
you gotta persevere.
yeah,
And then the parents too. But me, in my case, I was the parent.
right.
But then when you're working, the parents can get frustrated if the kids no moving, no splitting. You just gotta grind it out. There's gonna be good days and bad days, good tournaments, bad tournaments. You
Yeah,
gotta stay the course. Little things a little better every day over a long period of time.
right. Now
If
my
if any three of us, coach, parent, or player, anybody gets off track, this is not happening.
yeah,
So patience is huge. Patience and discipline, that's everything.
right. My next question. I think this is my last question for you. All
Okay.
right. Now, when he was, messing up and not doing the right things, and maybe agitating you, work ethic, or or tanking, or whatever, did you punish the guy?
Yeah, track. Just track.
Ah,
Raining. Oh yeah, I was tough. Yeah, now I'm a
okay.
little bit more laid back. Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh, I wouldn't drive back.
Right. I mean,
Track
listen, you're
23,
doing
26,
listen,
30 laps.
you're busting your butt. This is your project. The dad has
Oh
given you the
yeah.
green light. He gave you green light. Do
Oh
whatever
yeah.
it takes. So
Oh
you are
definitely.
making, and this is where I think,
Oh, he would just stay on the track. I wouldn't leave, and it would
right?
snow in the morning. Sometimes it is DC. We
So
were warm up
you
in the snow.
you and I are considered old school,
Oh
right? I call it proper school.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
making a great talent, someone you really care for. You're making them accountable for their actions,
Of course, and it's my investment.
right? And that's coaching. At
Of
that point,
course.
you're not their buddy and friend. You're really trying to help this
Oh,
individual,
definitely. I still do it, not to this extent.
right?
Sometimes if it wasn't,
Well,
and
however
then
you feel, whatever you feel
we
is
never even
necessary.
we never had an issue with rackets or yeah, because he was having so much fun. Our only issue was basically, and the attitude was also not an issue at all.
Right.
I was just footwork and just being so lazy and laid
Yeah, just
back.
being engaged, right?
You be
Engaged.
engaged, yeah, yeah. We never really had fights, but then I was like, okay, we'll just stay on the track, and we stayed there for hours until he walked, then he ran, then he walked, and then it would
Right.
be snowing and raining, and people were screaming at me. They thought
Yeah.
I completely, yeah.
But
But I got it done. That I was on the mission.
but exactly. But at the end of the day, you produced one of the best tennis players in the world, and you felt like you knew and what it takes and what it took, and it proves that what you did was right for that guy.
Exactly. Thank
And
you.
many people are going to say, I can't believe he did this. He shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have him playing this many hours. He shouldn't have
Yeah,
him running. He shouldn't be so hard on him. But at the end of the day, look at the results,
exactly. That's all that matters.
right? And he's living the greatest life. He's enjoying what he's doing. He's one of the
And
best
his
in the world.
family, yeah,
He's
and
supporting his whole
exactly,
family with tennis. People
exactly,
love him. He smiles. He lights up the room. He's so much
exactly.
fun. People love him. This guy has become a tremendous success. But Misha, it started with you and you
Thank you so
spending
much.
all those thousands of hours, right?
Yeah,
Because I'm going to tell you that the most important coach, in my opinion, is the one that starts the player and lays the foundation of everything. It's not just the grips and the swings. It's the mentality, the work ethic, the respect, the humbleness, the gratefulness, all of these things. And his father gave you the green light for you to do your best work.
thank you, Todd.
And that's what it's about. That's why we coach. We want to help people and change lives, right?
Yeah, you got to be there from day one. There's so many coaches out there, especially the big names. They only come when you win something.
They do it for the wrong reasons, and I can't
Can you
stand that.
exactly? Can you imagine? You got to come and can start somebody from scratch, 5 years old, 7, 8, and put all that work in
Right.
early junior year.
These are the coaches. I always find it very interesting. The last thing I'm gonna talk about. I always find it very interesting when you look at TV and you look at the ATP and the WTA tournaments, right? And you see these coaches in the box and they're getting
Yeah.
all the praise and oh my God,
Yes.
this and that. The ones that brought these players up from beginners, and into their teenage years, these are the ones that I think people really need to go and find, and they gotta find them for their children because these are the ones that are in the trenches every single day, grinding it out, thousands of hours, thousands of balls, year after year after year. These
That's
are
the hardest work.
the
That's the
this is
hardest
by
work.
far, it's what
Yeah.
you do every day, it's what I do every day. This is by far the most challenging, toughest work for a tennis coach that there is. And to me, it's not to disrespect the coaches that you see on TV at the ATP and the WTA level. That's a different job, but the most strenuous job are the ones that are going out there every day, grinding it out with these kids, every single day, being there for these kids, trying to help them go to a great college or maybe
Yeah,
become world-class, professional tennis players,
100%.
right? Misha, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you for having me. It was
Yeah, I
great.
think it was great. Thanks to Peter Clark and Coach Life for setting this up. I really enjoy this. I've been on many podcasts. I always enjoy speaking about tennis, but I love to hear the stories and how all these players were brought up, because no two players across the whole world have been brought up the same way. So for me, this
Correct.
is very educational for me as well, and I was trained by unbelievable coaches from a very young age that produced so many champions on many different levels. But I love to learn and hear how all these awesome players that we're seeing on TV, how they were brought up and how the coaches, their fundamentals and their philosophies, to bring these players up to become the best in the world.
Great. Thank you.
Misha, thanks so much. This was great. Really appreciate it. Take care.